fun. So I just check, like, make sure all the things have connected.
So where is this live at?
It's live everywhere. It's going to be on Facebook, YouTube.
Oh my God. Okay.
There's like gaming platforms called Mixer and Twitch. It'll be live there.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then, you know, afterwards, after it's already streamed live, we'll clip it up and put it all over. So I just go to
So I
check.
can put this like on my page too,
of
course.
Absolutely. You can put it everywhere you want. Let's put this one. Is this it? As long as it's live on Facebook, because that's where right now we have more audience. I'm going to turn this off. All right.
So this is your Blossom Company Facebook, or is this your personal?
Personal. It goes to everywhere. It's
Okay.
going to like multiple Facebook pages and multiple YouTube pages and all that.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. So I think we're live, but we'll just come back in. All right.
Okay.
Here we are. Welcome everybody to the studio. Today in the studio, I have my my good friend, Sandy.
Hello,
Check her
everyone.
out. You know, if you have never seen her before, she's been in the fitness industry for as long as I've known her. Sandy and I go back. Last time I saw you was like 2014.
Yes.
That's right. Because I was
a long time
competing for
ago.
the West Coast Classic. And I saw you at the Fit Expo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, I actually have a picture for that right here. Wait, not that one. Wait, it's the first picture. This is the one. This was
So
this was when I was just starting to get ready.
My God, it was 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Wow. That's crazy. And then we met a few times. Like I remember you used to represent GAT, and this is the first time I met you.
GAT days.
This is the first meeting I had of you. Look at this sexy boy though, man. Gosh, I want to look like this again.
That was what started it all for me, my demo days. Oh my God, those were so much fun, honestly.
Yeah,
I really
remember,
miss those.
This is like the early days of Instagram. This is where I remember the way I found out about you is because the bodybuilding community was so short and small at the time, and very few people were like talking about it.
Yeah, Instagram wasn't even really popular
It wasn't
yet.
popular. Like people were posting random stuff, but for whatever reason, like fitness became like this underlying niche that was coming out. And then I
Yes.
remember I found out that you were doing a demo nearby. God, look at that. I'm just out angling you so bad.
Oh my
But
goodness.
so good. This brings back great memories, man, for me.
It does for me.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
And so I came out. Look at that arm, though.
2013. I know. Look at those guns.
Shit.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah. So you were a big part of like, you know, me wanting to go down this path of fitness and, you know, look like this guy at that year when I won the West Coast Classic. It was quite a transformation from looking like
That is so
this
awesome. I know.
in the beginning of the
Wow.
year to like this.
Look at that
when
change.
when I won the show. So it was of course a lot of work.
Hold on,
as
you gotta
you
show
know.
everybody that again. Go back.
This one right here.
Yeah.
This was
From
from
that
that one to stepping
to
on
that.
stage.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's quite a crazy journey. So I wanted to, you know, take the time today, like to just, you know, dissect a little bit of your history and, you know, what got you into fitness. And I want to touch up upon the fitness part, but also, of course, the mental health part that goes with it and sort of the mental that state that needs to be inside of you to pursue these kinds of goals and then how they replicate to other parts of your life. You know, walk me back to like what Sandy was like before you got into like health and fitness. Like what were you up to and how did you, you know, even begin to say, okay, I'm going to like start this journey of being this fitness personality and even go to the gym and work out and stay so consistent year after year after year?
Gosh, you know where it all started? In high school, I was super active.
Yeah.
I was part of a team called Banners, and it was part of the band. And we did, actually, it
Is
started
it like a
back
color guard?
Yeah, almost. You know,
Yeah.
it started actually back in elementary school where I did cheerleading. And then in middle school, I was part of a team called Flags.
Okay.
And then that was part of the band group also, kind of like color guard.
I was in drumline.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we
so-
went to all the football games. And then in high school, I tried out for a team called Banners, made the team. And Banners was really cool because that's when I really learned how flexible I was. We used to spend so many hours stretching. Like we would stretch for about an hour or two before we even started practicing for dance or
That's
any
right.
of that.
That's right.
And that was like, I mean, that is the main reason why we did dance, so that we can be flexible. So
Right.
that was so important for us to do. So yeah, in high school I did Banners, and then eventually I started doing track and field. In
Yeah.
track and field, I started lifting weights actually in 10th grade. Our coach had advised us or recommended us to start lifting weights. And that was the first time I lifted like 25 pounds. Picked up
What
my
kind
first,
of workouts were you doing at the time?
I did a lot of back extensions. For some reason, I was really, really strong when it came to like hyperextensions or back workouts. But I was so young. I was a sophomore. I didn't even know like what the purpose was. Or
You're like 4'10",
4'10", yes.
4'10", doing all these heavy lifts.
And
back.
I just knew that as a runner, I wanted to have stronger legs. But I never really even did I didn't even do leg press or anything. It was just like messing around in the gym when you're a sophomore. And all the boys did all the big boy weights. But I just remember our coach or the teacher
Yeah.
telling us, just eat pasta the night before so that, you're
have
stronger
energy.
the next day.
Wow.
But I had no idea what it was for. So after high school, that's when my body started changing. You go through puberty.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was short, I was kind of like, kind of insecure about my body because I started getting curves. And to me, that's when I discovered like fitness magazines, like
Right.
Shape, Fitness. And I was looking at all the girls. I'm like, man, how do I get a body like that? Like, I want to be skinny. I want to have abs. I want to be shredded. And eventually I just started looking at all these magazines, start collecting them. And it really honestly wasn't until I discovered pre-workout. But let's get back to how I discovered pre-workout. So
Yes. Which is like the crack of the fitness world.
the crack of the fitness world, correct.
I remember when I was starting out and discovered pre-workout. The pre-workout used to come in the same size tubs as the protein containers.
Oh my God, yes.
And you had to take like 4 scoops, like protein size scoops, like I don't know how many ounces, at least an ounce of whatever. And you need to take that, and that was a pre-workout. And then came like I remember Jack 3D and 1MR came out with the titrated dosage, where it's like you take one tiny little scoop, and it's like, really? And you take one of those. I remember vividly, man. I took 1MR when it came on the market. It was called One More Rep, right? 1MR. I took that. I went to GNC or a vitamin shop. I took a bottle of that. I took 1 scoop of it. I went to the gym. I completed an arm workout. I came home. I couldn't sleep. I stayed up all night. I went to school the next day, and I came home and I worked out again.
Oh my gosh.
And I still couldn't sleep.
Oh wow.
And so I went back to Vitamin Shop and I told the guys, I need to return this. I can't handle this. It was way too strong. And it's never been that strong after then because they reformulated the recipes and whatnot. But anyway, tell me how you discovered pre-workout.
So crazy. So I think I don't even remember how old I was, but so when I started researching on working out. Actually, there was this YouTube page that I discovered. What is her name? Oh, it was bodyrock.tv.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys even heard of it.
No.
It's I found it on YouTube one day, and I don't know why, but I became obsessed with this page. And then eventually that led me to bodybuilding.com.
Yeah.
And then bodybuilding.com, and that's when I started learning about bikini competitors. And I'm like, what is this bikini competitor thing?
That's right.
And I just began dissecting. And then one day I was at my apartment gym and I met
This is my
this
favorite picture
guy.
of you, by the way.
Oh my God.
We'll pull this up. This is when you did this Dennis James Classic, I think.
Yes. 222 weeks ago.
Gosh. How much did you weigh in this show?
Honestly, I think for that show, I was about 100 pounds.
Wow. That's 100 pounds of solid muscle. Solid muscle.
Yeah.
Respect.
Thank you. It was, that show meant a lot to me because before that national show, actually before that one, that I did nationals after that, but this was my, I think, 4th show.
Yeah.
I competed 3 times before this, and after my first national show, I was kind of messed up after that because I was actually thinner than this. I was 95 pounds. Probably that was like my lowest. I think one day I was at Circle Nutrition in Long Beach doing a demo, and he had this this machine where it tests your body fat. and I think I was at like 9% body fat.
Which is a lot for a woman.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
I was skinny. I was like, I didn't even realize how skinny
Can't
I
even
was.
pull your thin skin off of your body. Wow.
I didn't even realize how skinny I was until like now I look back at the photos and I'm like, oh my God, I look kind of sick. It was really skinny. But that was, and then for this show, when I met Dennis James, I was working with Gat at the time, and he was...
that's when we met.
That's when we met.
When you were working for Gat.
And that was, I met Big Rami for the first time.
You, I think, have a picture with Big Rami somewhere.
Yeah, I do, somewhere.
Not
when we first...
There he is.
There he is,
There he is. God, he makes you look like just non-existent. I think he could eat you as a meal.
By the way, if you guys don't know who Big Rami is, he is the most humble human being I've ever met. He's just an awesome human.
This is when he just came on the scene. We started working with Dennis James, and he went and worked with the Kuwaiti crew and all that. But he barely spoke English, I think, at the time.
When I first met him, I actually picked him up at the airport, and we drove him to the hotel. He did not speak any English.
Wow.
And I was so excited to meet him, because he was like the first bodybuilder I've ever met, really, other than Dennis James in real life. But I mean, he was huge at the time.
300 pounds.
Exactly. So I met him, and I was I ran up to him. I wanted to give him a hug, and he was he didn't even he was kind of shocked. He didn't want to give me a hug because it was against
cultural and all that. He comes from a different part of the world.
He didn't speak any English, and of course I respected that. I was like, you know what? That's okay. I get it. It's fine. But this was, wow. So many memories when I look at that photo, because I ran into him at City Athletic Club, and I had already started working for Nutrex at the time. And this was 3 years after we met.
Yeah.
So yeah. Wow.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
But you started to, you said you discovered pre-workout and you started going to the gym more consistently.
Yes.
So where were you learning all the workouts from bodybuilding.com and others? And tell me, how did that process begin? Did you from day one just say, I'm going to do this, and then you just stayed committed with it and never stopped? Or what's the story behind that?
So I'm going to bring it back a little bit, because I kind of jumped ahead when I saw our competitive photos.
It's the way the podcast starts. It's we're excited to sit down and do this. And then the reason I go for some people you go and talk to people for 3 hours. I'm yeah, but you know how things unfold when it's everything's been gotten out on the table, and then you start to have the real conversation.
That is true.
So it's all good. We have all the time in the world.
So when I first discovered bodybuilding.com, this is when what is that? Body Space?
Yes.
My gosh,
yes.
Is that still around?
I don't know. I think so. It's basically a portal where it was you can input your data of your height, your weight,
your goal,
measurements, your goals, and it will generate a fitness plan.
Yes.
Even, and then it was a community. It's basically a virtual forum where people were posting their progress and health tips and all that. It was early days.
That's when Jamie Eason was
ooh.
Oh my gosh.
I have to bring this
Jamie
up.
Eason.
I have to bring Miss Jamie Eason. I was actually a little baby.
Oh my gosh, look at that photo. What year was that?
This is 2012.
Wow.
2012. When I met her, I used to be obsessed with her because I was she is such a badass and she's so hot and so cute. And
she was my role model.
And speaking of Body Space, it says right on the back, bodybuilding Body Space.
Oh my gosh, it does.
I waited in line for ever to see her, and I got up to her and I froze. She saw me coming, waiting in line. She looked at my face and she was just laughing with me because she's I was
you were so excited.
Hi.
Starstruck.
Just no idea. And I was so excited, and I gave her a big hug, and she actually talked to me, and her husband, or I think he was a boyfriend at the time, Michael, they got married after that, but she just told me how she's doing and how, this expo is going. And I was yeah, I'm just starting out on this bodybuilding journey. I love following you and learning from you. She would always have interesting recipes.
Yes. She had the best turkey meatloaf or meatballs,
the
recipe.
Burger thing.
Yeah,
I used to make those, the zucchini with turkey. And then she used to have a dessert that she talked about, which was you take, I think it was cottage cheese, cinnamon, and apples, and you microwave the apples so they get mushy. You put them in cottage cheese and put a little bit of cinnamon on top, and that was your healthy dessert for late night. And I used to do that at 11 at night when I'm just I want to just chow down ice cream. I'm nope. I'm going to listen to Jamie Eason, and I'm actually going to, I'm going to make this a healthier choice today.
Good job.
She was really inspirational.
I know.
For me.
I loved her so much. But she started, she was probably one of the first people that I really looked up to when I discovered bodybuilding.com. So
going back.
Yeah, going back. So I started researching, and one day I came across like an ad. I can't remember what motto it was, but one of those fitness magazines, and it was for Gaspari Nutrition Super Pump Max. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to try this. I'm going to try it. So I met this guy at like my apartment gym one day, and he brought up a nutrition store called Wholesale Nutrition.
Yeah.
So, it was just down the street from me. And at the time they have like 15 stores now, which is so amazing. So amazing. I'm so proud of them. They only had one store at the time in Costa Mesa, and then they were like on opening their second store in Huntington Beach. So I went to the Costa Mesa location. I met this guy, and till this day, we still joke about this, Mr. Sean Woods. I love you. I pointed to Super Pump Max, and I was like, I want that one. Like, I was so stuck on Super Pump Max because I was like, I wanted to look like that girl in the photo. And, of course, I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. So I was like, I just knew I wanted to look like her. So I'm going to take what she's taking.
You're right.
So I went in, I bought Super Pump Max, I tried it, and ever since I tried pre-workout, it was like game changer. I had all this energy.
You're like, I don't know what's gotten into me. I just want to lift these weights.
Yes. So, and I think I had creatine at the time. And then at the time I just started, I didn't even know anything about ingredients. So I started researching a little bit about creatine. I realized that it helped me lift more. So of course I was really happy. Yep. And then, I started going to the gym and, just really started talking to I don't know how many months I was actually working. I was probably 1 or 3 months where I the next month I ran out. I'm like, okay, I need more. Then after the second time I started buying protein. And then after protein came I don't know what came after.
Amino acids.
Yeah.
Probably.
So it was like I was such an amateur. I didn't know anything. And then I remember I was in LA one time. Oh, you know what? It was with my ex-boyfriend. He had this friend, his name was Michael Foster, and he had mentioned to my ex-boyfriend at the time that there's this company that was hiring for a demo rep.
Right.
And somehow my name came up. I interviewed for it, and I got the position as a demo rep. And that's when I started working for GAT. So GAT is German American Technologies. They used to be called something else. I forgot what it was called, but because they're called GAT Sport now. So that's when I really started learning a lot about ingredients when it came to supplements. Mr. Brian Dietz.
So you went from not knowing anything about
Yes.
supplementation, finding an ad, and going into a wholesale nutrition store and finding that this is what you wanted to get.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, you're having conversations with folks that are looking for someone to be a rep, and so you basically saw the lady on the
magazine
supplement,
ad,
and then you're like, I want to be like that, and then you got this opportunity to then be the face of a company's product.
I was just a demo rep, at the time.
But just sort of like you're the spokesperson, right? Like you're nobody knows about this bottle, right? So you're educating them, and so you almost were like pushed into the direction of having to learn what's in the supplement, what makes it good versus the other supplements, and how is it better for you and all that. That was what brought you into that space.
Yes, but even then, it was like back in 2013. I didn't even know I honestly, I was taught to be excited about ingredients when I was training. Yeah. And when I was going through the training process, that's when I realized, I was like, wow, this is so fascinating. I didn't know that, a simple ingredient like beta alanine can help my muscles. Right.
Right. Stuff that we've never heard of, all the different amino acids. I remember at one point I was taking leucine, freeform leucine, especially for the last contest that I was getting rid of between my meals to keep myself in an anabolic state, because I had read research that showed that leucine actually switches your body from a catabolic state to an anabolic state of all the amino acids. So I was and leucine tasted terrible, by the way.
By itself.
By itself, it tasted horrible. I don't think people are aware of this. Amino acids are made from human hair and nails.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wait,
they actually,
really?
yeah. It's made and sourced from like human hair and nails.
I didn't know that.
It's crazy. But I didn't know this at the time, and nor did I care. But at this, because how else do you make amino acids like artificially? They're like part of the protein synthesis process. So it's like it's inside of like anything that's made with the use of protein. Like our nails grow and our hair grows because it's from the protein process of how your body like works. And that's what I understood. But I took leucine just thinking, wait, between my meals, if I go catabolic, that means my body's gonna start breaking shit down. So it was just like micro, like assessing every little detail about your system, and then I would take leucine and just throw that right in my mouth and just chug water, and it would taste terrible. But I would do that and like walk around with a little bag full of white powder
like
on a college campus, with my food bag, and then people were like, "What are you taking, dude?" It's like, don't worry about it, man. You're not gonna understand what this is.
Yeah.
And I remember like I can relate to the fascination with the supplementation because working out is just one part of it. Like we're going to the gym and you're done. But what do you do outside the gym and throughout the day is what really helps make you look that way, the way you did. So after you got with GAT, tell me what, took place.
So when I was starting with GAT, I was just doing demos. And at the time, of course, I was shopping at Wholesale Nutrition. I started looking into the competitive world. So at the time, I knew nothing about it. Like I didn't even know what NPC was. I didn't know what IFBB was. Like I had no idea what any of those terms meant.
Right.
So I just knew that I wanted to look like Jamie Eason, Natalia Mello at the time. She was like one of my biggest idols. I remember even Larissa.
Yeah. Larissa Reese.
Yes.
Rice.
So,
I think you have a picture with her too.
It's actually right there.
Where is it?
It's right here.
Well, show that.
That is so crazy.
You're like 4'10", and but the craziest part is you still hold your own. Like I seen your pictures with comparison on stage. You have a very balanced physique for a competitive athlete, and I always thought that was really cool.
For me, I'm so small that I've always tried to I always think of hourglass. So I always think of
hourglass.
Yeah, hourglass. So I always train upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. But since I am short, my legs can grow pretty fast. So I try not to you have to be so in tune with your body when it comes to bodybuilding. But you know what? I didn't know all this in the beginning. I didn't. You
didn't know what your strengths were, your weaknesses were. You were just getting started.
But over time, I learned. So let's just take it back a little bit. So when I started, learning about these competitors, that's when I wanted to dig deeper. I started researching. I went on, I think, npcnewsonline.com. And then at the time, somehow I discovered a team called Team Zero Gravity. And I think they're still coached by Taylor Benson and Ryan Benson. And I decided to go out there and I contacted them. I eventually went to their gym in San Dimas and I decided to join the team. I was like, you know what?
Wait, so you went from barely working out a few months.
Yeah.
Starting with GAT to saying
I wanted to compete. All this happened the same time.
How many months are we talking? Few
It was
months?
3 months. It was
all in a matter of 3 months.
Yeah. Because before that, I already knew I growing up, high school, young teenager, it's in everyone's head. When you're going through puberty, I want to have a nice body. I want to look I want to be fit. I want to look like the girl in the magazine. So because I've always wanted that, I think that when I started discovering supplements, when I started discovering these nutrition stores, these magazines, I knew I wanted to be a part of fitness some way.
Right.
So when I discovered this team, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go all in. I'm just going to do it. I mean, I'm already taking the supplements. I already love working out. So why not have someone help me also and take it to the next level?
I think one thing to note there is the reason the fact that you set up a goal to say I'm going to compete gave you that focus to then dictate your actions and put them in order. Because I remember when I first started working out too, for about a year maybe a little less than a year, I was working out, I was seeing results, but without having that sort of overarching what are you trying to go towards, because otherwise there's like
There's
no
no
reason.
purpose,
There's
yeah.
no point. Why are you doing this, right? It's like, yeah, okay, it's good for your health and this and that. But try telling yourself that every day. Like, good luck. That's why most people, when they go to the gym, they stop working out because they don't have an overarching vision
Correct.
or a goal to shoot for. And so not until that, when I got introduced to a guy named Steve Bonstead, who was a former Mr. California, he used to go to the same gym I went to. He's much older. And after I would work out, I would go into the steam room and the sauna to relax and all that and kind of loosen up the muscles. And so he would usually be one of the late night gym goers, like the few people that do. And he started talking to me about, bodybuilding and helped me understand like the space. But more importantly, I think he told me things about, here's what I see in your frame already. Like, you have really good V taper. I think you would have really good lats. And if you just work on your legs a little bit, you can have this X frame, like similar to the hourglass in bodybuilders. It's the X frame. You want to have a V taper up top and like the same reverse B on the bottom with the quads and stuff hanging out. So I guess if I go back to this picture, it's not the best example of it, but this is the crab shot. But at the same time, it was like the upper body and the lower body have to balance each other out. So
Correct.
it all looks the same. And then I started with no intention of being a competitive bodybuilder, but the moment I switched myself from this passive gym goer to having this goal of wanting to look a certain way, the whole game changed.
Yeah, same. So when I met this team, I started, of course, they already coached like a bunch of girls and, they're already doing shows and people were winning. People were getting first place. I was like, you know what? I want to win.
Yeah.
I want to compete. I want to do this. I want to look like Nutella Mello. So I went, I started training with them every single week. I started dieting. I remember my first show. I think I got ready in like 4 weeks. That was extreme.
That's insane.
That was really, really insane. But this was, again, when I first started in industry and I just decided to go like 100% in. So when I decided to compete, at the time when I was shopping with Wholesale Nutrition, one day I get this message from the owners, Chris and Preston, and they wanted to sponsor me. And I was like, sponsor me? What does this mean?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. So I think at the time they had 4 guys, and I was their first female sponsored athlete.
Wow.
So
people don't realize if they hear this, like today we're sitting in 2019 talking about this, but back in the day, like this was a very new thing.
Very new.
Very, very new endeavor. This was not something that was common practice. Very few people even know about the industry. It was a taboo sort of place, a very small niche that just has been blowing up more and more and more. In the last few years.
Yeah, like I didn't even know what sponsorship meant, but basically they were there to help me when I needed supplements. And, I continued supporting them and I continued doing demos at their stores, but not only at the stores, I was with GAT at the time. So I visited a lot of different stores. Yeah. So let's go back really quick. So when I started doing demos for GAT, I didn't even realize that I was really good at it until they wanted to give me more territory, meaning I eventually started doing sales for them. I started managing the entire Southern California, and eventually that led to me managing the entire state of California. But of course, to get to that point, I had to learn a lot about supplements. And of course, I started researching everything there is to every individual ingredient. So every ingredient that GAT had for their product, for example, NitroFlex is a huge seller for even till this day. And it's a natural testosterone booster pre-workout. And one reason why I fell in love with I was already taking pre-workout. So before that I was Super Pump Max. And then I started taking NitroFlex. And because I've benefited from NitroFlex so much, I was so passionate about it that I was able to, although it had, I'm thinking too much.
Just slow it down. It's okay.
I'm like so excited.
It's all right. We have all the time, Sandy.
I know.
We'll let this unpack. It's okay. Take a breath.
So NitroFlex, because it had an ingredient called CFB in it, it was an all-natural test booster pre-workout.
Yeah.
And of course, women were really like afraid of it.
They have low testosterone to begin with for a
Yeah.
reason. They
So
don't wanna look
girls
too
would be
manly.
like, girls like were afraid of taking pre-workout to begin with, But for something for me, I wasn't afraid of it because I took pre-workout already, and I realized like how much it benefited me. So when I started taking NitroFlex, I've learned the chemistry, the science, and everything behind it. That I was like, I knew it wasn't gonna hurt me in any way.
Right.
So that's when I started educating other people on ingredients.
So you uncovered the taboo with pre-workouts and the unknown of what these ingredients are and why they exist. And
Correct.
because you started using them yourself and saw results, you chose to educate other people, to inform them and bring them up to speed. Here's something that can actually help you with your endeavors, rather than why be scared of it. Like,
yes, because even to this day, and I think that this is still a common thing that I hear from girls is I don't want to get too buff. I don't want to take anything that's.
I don't want to look like a man.
I don't want to be jacked.
Yeah.
I don't want to take that. I just want to be toned.
Right.
But I'm like, what does that mean? What does it mean to be toned? And how do you get toned? And it goes back to the question of, how I stay motivated and continue training throughout these years.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes from sports supplements, and the benefits of sports supplements. So yeah, back to NitroFlex. I started taking NitroFlex, started educating people, even women, on the benefits of all that. So that, of course, led to sales.
Because you're already talking to the people.
Yeah, because
and
I was so
talking to them
passionate about it. And then everybody wanted to try what I was, so passionate about. And then eventually that led to results in, helping me compete and do better at my shows, because I was able to stay focused on the prize, which was, I wanted to compete in nationals.
That's
I wanted
right.
to get my pro card. And if you guys don't know, basically in the NPC world, you have to win your first national. You have to win nationals in order to qualify.
Yep.
No, actually, you have to
get a qualifier, and then you go and compete in nationals. And if you win nationals,
correct,
the top 2 places get the pro card. Well, in the bikini, I think it's like the top 3 or something.
I think it's top 2. I'm not sure. I've been.
It's probably changed since we were we're kind of the grandparents of this now industry. But that was the same journey I was on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to. My plan was so after I won the West Coast Classic, it was to go and take the California Mr. California title, and then from that go to the USA's.
Yes.
Which you competed at.
Yes.
But to get to that level, I'm sure, one thing that we haven't talked about is like the drugs that people also take, the steroids and the other. And it's the funny thing is that's not the only thing. It's like there's painkillers involved. There's
a lot,
amphetamines involved. There's so many other substances that people take and abuse. But at the same time, it's like that's what they chose to do. It's like when they're so dedicated and fixated on that goal, nothing else matters to them, not even their own health.
That's true.
Because it's about the trophy now. And, maybe we should hold back on that, or we can go into it now. It's like part of being a competitive athlete. I think you and I both saw that it went to a place where after we were getting good at crossing the T's and dotting the I's and making the workouts every day, eating the meals every day, doing the cardio every day, seeing the changes in their body. Once you get to that competitive level, and even if you start to look good as a competitor, it never ends. You start comparing yourself with all the other competitors.
That's true.
And sooner or later, your mental health starts to kind of catch up to that. It breaks down.
Yeah.
It starts to affect you. You're like, well, what am I doing this for? You lose intention. You lose the sight of why you started in the first place. Like for me, I started because I wanted to avoid having health issues that my family has had. And that was really the main goal.
Wow.
And then competitive part was like, Steve got in my head about you could be this bodybuilder person. And I was like, okay, that'd be cool. And as a teenager, of course, I'm influential. I was 18 at the time, 17
Win
or 18.
Mr. Olympia.
Yeah. And I'm like,
okay,
goal. let's at least try. Let's see where this can take you. And then once you climb, it's like a bug. It's a competitive bug. The moment you get on stage and you've done
and then when you win too.
Yeah. My journey wasn't as cool as yours. I lost a lot. I took second and third place 5-6 times before I took first place. And then when I did win, I tell this story all the time, is I'd never felt good that day. When I won, I felt I was insufficient. I didn't look the best, but I looked good enough to win the day. And that's what really it came down to. And it started to break down in my head, like, what is bodybuilding? It's like you spend this enormous amount of time, weeks and weeks and weeks of contest prep.
Yeah.
But then you all comes down to that one day, that one like
So true.
moment on stage where anything can go wrong. Your tan could be off.
Your posing.
Your posing could be off. Your maybe you're bloated for whatever reason because your
You had
water
too much
retention,
carbs.
water
You're
retention's
too
messed
full
up.
or-
Whatever. And it's like all these variables, which you could say like, okay, that's what like you have to do, but at the same time, it's like, really? Is that what it's about? It's not. It's about that whole process,
Correct.
right? Where you went and learned all these things and got informed and you found a way to reach to other people and help them understand like the benefits of certain supplementation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think your overarching kind of journey, and I want to hear this from your end, of course, is to help people understand the process of getting healthier,
Yes.
rather than like becoming competitive athletes.
Yes.
But you did that yourself to see what that was like and go to the extreme to
Correct.
learn that knowledge, but then bring it back to like the practicality,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
So what happened with you throughout the competitive journey?
Well, so I competed in 2013. I did my first national show. After my first national show, honestly, that one messed me up a lot because
How so?
I didn't win nationals, and
Mentally it messed you up?
And mentally it messed me up because I had
You're like, I did all this work.
I had competed 3 times already. I won my first show, and then the second show, actually, I didn't. I placed second one time, and then I competed again, and I placed first. And then at nationals, I placed 7th. I got first callouts. So when you're competing, you have these different callouts, and you want to be in first callouts because that means you're like the top, like
Yes.
top 5 or top 6.
Right.
But at nationals, I think it depends on how many people are competing nowadays. But first callouts is where you want to be at. So I was so happy. I was so excited. But that day when I placed 7th, I don't know, something broke me. I was like mentally really, really fucked up. Like I was like, man, I placed 7th. I can't believe this. Like I was prepared to I wanted to win because in my heart, like I trained so hard. I was dieting so much to the point where like I weighed my lettuce. That's how crazy I was.
Dang.
Yeah, I weighed my lettuce.
And you were working with Dennis James.
At the time I was with Team Zero Gravity.
Ah.
So I didn't discover Dennis until after the fact. But,
Okay, I'm sorry.
So no,
We
that's
jumped
okay.
too far.
That's okay. So after my first national show, that really messed me up.
Both
Because
emotionally and physically.
physically, and I was like, I dieted it so hard for this show. I sacrificed so much. I'm like, why? And then I was so unhappy. But I'm like, then it came to the question of like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I like dieting so hard for something just to place 7th? Like, for what? What is my purpose here? Why am I doing this? Then I rebounded. I started like eating everything. I started eating things
All the stuff you deprived yourself of.
I ate pie. Like I ate a whole pie one time. I was like, I never even eat pie. Like, what is this?
I would love to see you try to eat a whole pie.
I actually did.
That's
I really
amazing.
like the crust of a pie.
Pie crust is the shit.
It's so good. But I was and then at one point I was really heavy. I was like, for my height, I think I gained up to I was like 115. So going from like 95 pounds to like 115, that was like a lot for me.
Right.
And I think there was one year where I think it might have been at the LA Fit Expo where I felt like, man, I feel really thick right now. And I was just so unhappy, even though I was working. I was sponsored. I was working for a supplement company, which is like everyone's dream nowadays, to be honest, but I wasn't, sponsored like with GAT per se, like as far as like being the face of it. I was more of like the business side of it. I really enjoyed, teaching people about the benefits of supplements and then getting the supplements into the stores. So that's where the sales side came in. Anyways, going back, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's totally fine. So let's talk about this. I would be more interested in knowing what were some of the pitfalls that you found being part of the sort of, because like you said, everybody wants to be sponsored by a company.
Correct.
They want to be an athlete that like on Instagram has that, sponsored by XYZ and it competes in this, whatever federation and has these accolades of all this. But that's just the front end.
Yes.
You have actually lived that life, been in part of the sales, part of the product distribution and brand, growth and all that, which is essentially what these people that are aspiring to be sponsored need to start thinking about, because it's not just about being sponsored, but what
No,
do you
it's
bring to
not.
the company? What is your
Correct.
value and what is it that you're doing? So what are some pitfalls that you think could be valuable for somebody that's trying to be sponsored by a company and all that? Like what are some things that you've learned, through that process?
So nowadays, and actually, like there's an example of like a kid the other day. I was like working out, and he's very, very young, and you can tell he's really motivated, and he started asking a lot of questions for some reason. And normally I don't like talking to people in the gym, but he was like, I want to be sponsored. I want to be sponsored by. I think he mentioned NutriShop, and I was like, well, why? Like,
Why?
why do you want to be sponsored? Like, for what? He's like, yeah, so I can, I can get my name out there so that I can get products, so that I can be the face of it, so I can start modeling for them. But I'm like, okay, so what have you been doing? Are you currently buying their supplements? He's like, yeah, well, I bought, I go in there from time to time. I talk to the employee and, I always send people to their store. I'm like, okay, so what else do you do? Are you posting photos of you wearing their gear? Are you posting photos of you actually using it and why? He's like, no. So then I asked, well, let's just take this back. Like, why? Let's figure out why you want to be sponsored in the first place. So a lot of people think that being sponsored is going to get them famous, it's going to get them a lot of money.
Yeah.
But in reality, it doesn't.
Most of these companies don't pay you; they pay you in product.
Yes,
They give you free. They give you, some of them I know they even just give you a discount on the product. They don't even give it to you for free.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
But when people want to be sponsored, I always tell them, like, even when I was hiring like ambassadors for other people, I mean for other countries, like when I did manage when I was with the supplement company, I would always see like how can you bring value? Like, what are you gonna do for the company? Nowadays I feel like everyone's always like, what are you gonna give me?
Right.
What are you gonna get? Like, what am I gonna get out of it? But I'm like, wait, hold on. Before you even get there, what can
you bring to the table?
Exactly.
Yes.
You have to think of it like a job. Do you think that when you go to work, you're just gonna get paid?
Right.
No, like you have to put in the work before you can even earn the money. You have to put in the hours. The same goes with sponsorship.
Yep.
You're going to have to put in the hours. You're going to have to grind. You're going to have to show your worth. Or there's no reason for a company to sponsor you because, at the end of the day, it's going to have to benefit both parties.
Right. And you took on, I think at one point you mentioned you were doing global operation, like trying to get companies' products not just in the US, but because a lot of these supplement companies were very new, and now they've been more established that we're sitting in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
But in those early days, you had to think about like, well, how can I help educate other people about this, which is very different than most people's approach. Like, you chose to learn about the products,
Correct.
what's specific in them, and then teach other people the benefits of that internationally. Even I think you said you traveled to China at some point.
Yes.
And
So
tell me about that.
So when I was with GAT, I eventually got approached by Nutrex Research, and that's when I got the chance to meet Larissa, and I was still very starstruck with him. I mean, till this day, we're good friends now, and she's such an amazing human being. But I got the chance to run the West Coast for Nutrex, and eventually, it was always a dream of mine to run Asia. And after being with Nutrex for about a year, I got the opportunity to get a job promotion to run Asia. But the only kick was I had to move to Florida. Long story short, I accepted the position, moved to Florida, started managing Asia, started traveling to, actually, I didn't travel to Asia first, but I managed Asia. And then that eventually led to me managing Australia, New Zealand, Russia, and India.
Wow.
So for me, the thing is, not every country, same with every human being. We're all different. And one specific products are going to be popular in different countries. And you kind of have to think of it as like a beginner's standpoint. I'm trying to break this down. Like, I always like to use skincare as an analogy here, only because, we all have different sizes. We all have different shapes. Like, we all have different skin types.
Right.
And just like supplements, it's going to be different for everybody else. So the same kind of goes with a country. Like for China, they're so new to even to a single supplement that you can't expect them to want to know or bring in every single product. So when I educate from like a beginner standpoint, that's how you slowly get yourself into like these different countries. I don't know if that makes any sense.
So how do you dictate or figure out, like for example, in China, how would you have gone about to figure out what would resonate with the crowd there? Is this the research that a company like GAT would do, or is this something that you had to figure out yourself?
I had to figure it out myself. I basically researched everything,
Like,
you start by I used Google a lot. And basically I learned a lot of where supplement stores were. It's kind of hard to explain really. Like I would Google like supplement stores in each country.
yeah,
And then from there I would just email them. I would contact them, and then I ask questions. I ask what's popular nowadays. What are some things that people want? Is pre-workout popular? And if so, what kind of
are
pre-workout
fat
are they
burners
taking?
popular?
Yeah,
Right.
in Asia, they're very big on mass gainers. They're very big on pre-workouts. Fat burners are just becoming a thing, But in a country like Australia, they're really big on like, how am I going to explain this? On the banned ingredients.
Banned ingredients.
Yeah, because they always want like the strongest stuff. But the thing is, there's a lot of rules and regulations too. So it's like there's so many factors that go into selling international. But I'm losing track again.
That's okay. I think I follow along. I think what you're saying is that you had to figure out really specifically what is it that the people in those countries are already interested in.
Correct.
And how do we get these new products from company like GAT or Nutrex? Their specific products, because every company has a large distribution of different products like pre-workouts, proteins, fat burners, and I don't even know what else, like amino acids and God knows what else they have nowadays. But then you have to find, how do we get this specific product into this market and make it successful? Because
Correct.
like going back to being sponsored by a company, it's not just so like, oh, here you go, here's a bunch of free product, put it on your Instagram.
Yeah, no.
They don't care about that. They're more concerned with, how do we grow this brand? How do we grow the product line, which is what you were a big part of. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. But also, I just wanted to touch really quick too, just like an individual, like when anyone just starts off using like a supplement, I don't like to just push like every single product on a person. I like to learn everything there is. Like, are you currently taking any products? I feel like that's very important. And it goes back to like, learning about your country too. When you are managing a country, like you figuring out what is best for that country and your body. It's kind of like the same thing.
Right.
Like, so I wouldn't put a beginner on like, a pre-workout, a fat burner, all at one time. You would figure out in steps.
What's most essential? Probably some protein supplementation.
Exactly. And
Right.
then you work from there, and then that's like your baby. And then you just slowly educate and just grow it from there.
Right,
and it's
right.
just like bodybuilding, it's the same thing. It's going to take so many years for you to learn a lot about your body. It doesn't happen overnight. And just like building a business, it takes years and years and years of hard work. Just like that sponsorship. If you want that sponsorship, you're going to have to put in all that work and learn everything there is to like what you personally like about the brand, and then why the specific supplements they have work for you. And then, it just, yeah.
So piggybacking off you have to work consistently over and over again to get, yourself sponsored and successfully be with a company. The same is true for working out in the gym, of course, and building your physique. I want to know more about when, you obviously have certain level of consistency and discipline that you participate in, but you're a human being just like everybody else. So
Yes.
when you have those days where you simply just can't get yourself on track, maybe you woke up and have stress about other things in life or whatever it is, tell me like really like what is the inner environment like? What are you going through? And then how do you kind of, put yourself back into that state, that focus of, because I think this would be really important for a lot of people, including myself, because now that I don't have this goal of like this being this competitive, bodybuilding freak,
Yeah.
it's like, why should I keep doing this? Like, for me, it's a little bit simpler. It's like I noticed that if I don't go to the gym, it hurts my mental health. Like, I'm not stable in that sense. I start to break down like more stress, easily getting ticked off at things, versus when I do work out, I can tend to manage even the most like outrageous situations in a very calm manner. But what is it for you that you do to put yourself back into that state? And how do you do it? Tell me the process.
I honestly, I feel so much better, just like you just said, feel so much better after I work out.
Yeah.
I am like literally motivated to go to the gym every day. It's just something that I personally found that I just have better days when I work out.
Yeah.
I don't ever have a day where I don't want to work out, I should
Really?
say. I don't.
That's amazing. And I want to know why though. Like, what is inside of you that's sort of like made this into I gotta do it. Like, it's a must for you. It's not like I should work out. It's like I
Yeah.
must work out today.
I think knowing the fact that I will continue feeling good for like my heart, I would continue to just, I've always had this image of like, I always want to be fit, and that's what motivates me to like, also just, I want to continue like helping others, and I continue want to learning more about the human body. I think that's what really fascinates me
Yeah.
on like how far I can push myself. And I know I can always improve. So I think that's what motivates me personally.
Do you feel pressured that because you have to help other people, or you want to help other people, that you have to look a certain way, so you almost can't let off the gas pedal, because the moment you start to not look the part, you feel that, well, my advice will probably go on, unheard ears, basically?
Yes and no. I feel more so I do it for myself. Because it goes back to like my younger days when I did discover that first magazine where I'm like, I want to look like that, And for me, I think it's always just been a goal for me. Like, I want to be fit for the rest of my life, So personally for me, that's what motivates me, and I honestly, I love my sports supplements. My
Yeah.
sports supplements really
Let's
motivate
talk
me.
about this a little bit, because I feel there's been a shift, right? Like girls and guys, like look at Lululemon.
Oh yeah.
And so like having this, because like going to the gym or actually let me back up. Getting in shape and being healthy, we're talking about this a little bit. It's very simple. Eat less, work out more, get some sleep, and just do that every day. It's a simple process, but then it's just you battling your own thoughts, like, oh, I don't feel like it, or what's the point, or I'm not really getting results. But the moment you start getting some results, you can go take it two ways. You can either say, wow, this works, I'm going to keep going ahead, or you can slack off and be like, yeah, this works. I might be getting, too much. I don't really want this. I'm going to like go back to my old patterns of not being disciplined or whatever.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's a very simple process. But I'm seeing, because it's such a simple process, like we tend to get bored with simplicity, right? So like having these supplements to look forward to, like new supplement products, new clothing to buy for the gym. And I'm seeing this more and more. Like, I remember when I was bodybuilding, most of the days I'd be in a hoodie and sweatpants
Yes,
and headphones on, and like, don't bother me, like I'm in my zone. But nowadays it's more like less clothing, it's flashier clothing,
Yeah, that's
neon.
true.
And it's like, I used to be like, what the hell are people up to? But I'm starting to see it more in the angle of, these are sort of things to constantly keep your motivation up, so you keep sticking to this activity, because it's a very robotic activity. Like going into the gym and like doing the same exercises, reps and sets over and over and over again. I mean, it's very much robotic.
Yeah,
But that's
is.
what works, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what we need to be that way. So I think in a way, what I'm understanding from what you're telling me also is like the supplements keep it rejuvenated. Like you feel, if I have like this new supplement to take, you're excited. Like, and I can relate to that. Like I used to wake up in the morning. I've said this in the show before. Is like, I had a really tough time waking up and doing cardio in the morning. So I would put a caffeine pill next to my bed before I went to sleep the night before. So I would wake up and pop that into my mouth and go back to sleep. And then the caffeine pill would hit. And then I'm like, let's go do that cardio that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And then, you do that a few times a day. You got your pre-workout that you take before the gym. And then I remember like the nitric oxide supplements are really popular because they give you a better pump. So you're like looking forward to that. It's almost like they're creating this excitement for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder how much of that can be like upheld, because it's not everyone.
Yeah,
But
not
it
everyone
has to go
wants
with
it.
the root of where you genuinely want to be a healthy person, and you
Mm-hmm.
genuinely care about your body and its inner workings. You take the time to learn the system of how your body functions, what kind of nutrition gives you what kind of results for your
Correct.
individual self, and help other people. So it's like that's the root. And these other like sort of getting the nice clothes and getting the nice like supplements and all that stuff, like posting on Instagram and all that stuff, is sort of the secondary, tertiary like part of
Yes.
getting in shape. But nowadays it's getting confused with people wanting to post about their fitness journey on Instagram more than they actually spend the time, taking to learn, or they look for shortcuts like, oh, if I just take steroids, or if I just take
Yeah.
this and that, then I can look like that. And yeah, that works short term, but like your life is your entire life. You don't just stay fit for the first like, n number of years and all of a sudden
Exactly.
you stop, right? Like this goes on continuously.
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think, and also that's what drives me too, because like, eventually I want to have kids, and I want to be a good role model for my kids. And I just want to continue, helping, eventually, like I want to, like right now for me, it's my nieces, I want to teach them that, working out is so important. I never mentioned this, but my little brother, he had a heart attack when he was 27, and he, that like really, really struck me, I mean,
Yeah.
he's okay now, thank God.
Wow.
But your health is so important, and it goes back to like you should really want to take care of yourself, because we only have this one life, so why waste it on, yes, I do enjoy foods, and I do, don't get me wrong, like enjoy eating ice cream, pizza, like I want to eat all that stuff all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But then I think back to like, but you got to have self-love and self-care also
Yeah.
for yourself, and or else taking it way back again, when I was younger and when I was a teen, I lost my best friend and I lost my cousin. They were both murdered, and that's when it really, really hit me that like life can be taken away from you in seconds.
That's it.
And my entire life changed. So I think that's what motivates me too, just to live life as healthy and as full as to the possible.
This is your vehicle.
Yeah.
This is like for the journey that we're here. I always say like we're here and we're all gonna be gone one day, and we have this time in the middle, and this vehicle is what we have to enjoy and experience this journey and this time here. And and enough scientific evidence also shows that having a healthier body will allow you to be able to cope with stress that
Correct.
life inevitably brings for
Yeah.
everyone. I don't care how awesome your Instagram looks, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like every single one of us is going to go through the downs of life, the real dark places. And it's
Yes.
been shown that if you have some activity, a physical activity that you do, because the physical activity stimulates chemicals in your body.
Dopamine,
Yeah.
serotonin, yes.
And those are all like, what do we give antidepressants for? Because those chemicals, like the reuptake of serotonin, SRIS, all these different chemical receptors, they basically mimic that same chemical imbalance that you have and try to like supplement that. But you can do that by working out
Correct.
and keep yourself in line. And it's been shown to have natural like, benefits.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I would want to know more about, how has the social media world affected you positively, but more importantly, how has it like affected you negatively in the mental health? Like really like open up to me about that if you can, as to like, I don't, maybe I'll say a few qualifiers here. It's like, look, you're beautiful, you're young, you're healthy, you're hot, no denying that. But posting on Instagram, which most of the content that we see, and you know what, maybe I'll even point out that you don't have like the millions of fans and whatnot, because I think you chose to reassess
Yeah.
yourself because you had everything. You had one of the best physiques. You were a national level competitor. You're on your way to like basically doing this as long as you wanted. But I think at some point you
I took a break.
decided that this was not where you wanted to go.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. After I competed at my second national show, I think I really stepped away from social media, and that was actually after this era here. I really stopped after that.
Yeah, because the funny thing is, I look back and I see, like, for you, let me go back, like, you don't have that many posts,
No.
but initially when you were going, you were like,
Yeah, I was posting
going hardcore on that.
almost like probably every day. I
Right.
was posting. But after I competed at nationals, and then when I did move to Florida, I realized like I was so unhappy because I started seeing, like, all I started seeing on social media was ass and titties, like
That's
it was
it.
just too much for me. And I was like,
Do
what
I want to add to that?
No, I didn't. And, at first I was okay with doing it. And then when I started seeing more and more of that, I kind of stepped away and was like, I don't really like this image anymore. It was starting to make me really depressed. I was starting to get like really sad, and I just stopped posting. I was like, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah, because you are very vulnerable when you put yourself out there like that. And as we know, both of us having done bodybuilding, it's like we're already like the worst critic of ourselves. Like the photos that you post and you think look bad, most people will look at that and be like, holy cow, that's incredible. But for us, it's like we're always looking at it and super critical of it. And that just beats you down so much in your own head. Talk to me about like, what that felt like, the Instagram sort of, flagship of fame, and also probably people being very much pushy and guys maybe, trying to approach you way more aggressively than otherwise, in person and whatnot. Like, tell me what that's like.
To this day, of course, like the photos that get the most likes are the ones that are where I am showing a lot more.
Yeah.
Where I'm showing my abs, or like, I'm like half naked basically in
Pretty
a sports
much.
bra, or that's what it is. And it's so sad to say that, and me being a girl, especially working in the sports supplement industry, there are a lot of guys where they will send you dick pics. They will send you like, tons of messages like you're hot, or trying to go out with with me and stuff, and it gets so tiring after a while, because you're like, man, like
That's all I am.
And then you start feeling so like worthless, and that is, I went through a whole probably like 2-3 years of not posting because of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was sick of it. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I decided that, something needs to change, because like all I see when I open Instagram is, these girls opening, a energy drink and trying to sell something that makes no sense to the image.
Well, most people's Instagram pages, if you look social media wise, like unless they're one of the
millions,
the top people, majority of the people are very disoriented as to what they're trying to, what's the intention, and including myself. Like you look at my Instagram, it's all over the place, but at the same time, I'm shifting a little bit of my strategy. I'm trying to be more real and have the conversation about like these kinds of things that are actually happening inside of our headspace.
Yeah.
Because like the external world, this is like, again, the physical body is a manifestation of external still. Like whatever you do to look a certain way is what people see you as, but they'll never know what the inside environment is like.
Correct.
Unless you put that out there or you talk about it.
Correct.
So I'm thinking more like, well, clearly mental health is an issue. We're seeing so much of it online, where people are addicted to, social media, and they're including, I've gone through it myself, but seeing that this is a pattern now, like, and this isn't going away. So we have to change our narrative about this. We have to start talking about the bigger picture. And I do appreciate you, coming down all the way from LA, taking a 2-hour drive to come see me and sit in front of me to talk about this. Genuinely, really, shows a lot about who you are as a person, that you do genuinely care about spreading the right kind of information and not just the cheap kind of tactics that do work, but also don't make you feel fulfilled on the inside, and we were talking a little bit earlier about being on the platforms and having to put this out hurts on the inside too, but there could be a good balance, as if we were to share more of like the information. Like I've noticed you've shifted your perspective on
Yeah.
Instagram. You're sharing more of the knowledge that you know, not just the physical body that you have,
Mm-hmm.
but the knowledge that you have, which is amazing. Like you've spent 10 years like or
Yeah.
whatever, like learning things and applying them to look that way, which
Yes,
is way more
correct.
important than like just looking that way,
Yeah,
because then other people
it's
can
true.
utilize that, right? What has been like the most common question that you get asked in terms of like, is it about weight loss generally, or is it about like supplementation? Like what do you find most people are interested in knowing?
A lot of people want to know a lot about nutrition.
Mm.
And it's kind of like, I would say 60% nutrition and then 40% supplements.
Mm.
But a lot of people just don't know where to start.
Right.
So that is something that I found that I truly, truly love sharing, is like why I started, how I started, and how to get where I am today, because I know how it feels to be an amateur and not know anything, and
Right.
I mentioned this before. When I first started, I didn't even know what gluten-free meant
Yeah.
or what steel cut oatmeal was compared to regular rolled oats. Like,
I still don't know.
it's the way they grow, but yeah,
It's the way they grow.
yeah, and there's different. I mean, steel cut. We'll get into that different.
Well, let's get into it. I mean, let's talk about what kind of let's say somebody comes up to you and say, "Hey, Sandy, I want to, get started in my fitness journey and I want to eat better." And yeah, everybody knows that they have better food choices than pizza and,
Yes,
and
of course.
burgers, but like what do you recommend, to somebody that's just starting out on their fitness journey, and nutrition wise? What has been sort of like the staple that, you feel is going to be bring them success?
So for me, I always like to just a couple years ago, I realized that I kept getting really, really uncomfortable with like my stomach. Like I kept having all these stomach issues. I was getting bloated from like all these different types of foods. And at first I thought it was, maybe I'm so sensitive now because I have competed. So, I didn't
Yeah.
think anything of it before until I finally got an allergy test.
Ooh.
And I realized that, I was I'm allergic to wheat and dairy. So, and I had no idea. Like, I didn't even know that. So now when I teach people, I really became obsessed with like learning about ingredients. And I feel like that is way more important than anything else, because when you know how to read a label, for example, not only with
Nutrition
supplements,
label.
nutrition labels, you'll really figure out what works best for your type, because everyone has different body types. What works for me is not going to work for you, because I am wheat sensitive. You may not be, so you may be able to eat certain things that I can't. And I think that plays a huge factor as when it comes to like, your macronutrients also. Just figuring out like how much carbs you can intake a day, because maybe you can eat like 300 grams of carbs, but only someone 410 like me, I manage to eat like 150 to like 100. So it's all about finding the balance for your body type, the macronutrients for your body type. So
Right.
from a beginner standpoint, that's what I like to teach first. How
What's your baseline? Is that like that's what you are basically getting at? Like figure out what's your baseline for your body.
Yeah, correct. And
Yeah.
then also learning ingredients. And because nowadays there's so many things on labels that lie. To be
Yeah.
honest, it says that, it's like super, just like, I don't know, the other day I saw like Cheerios. It was like protein. And, but then you read the label and it still has corn syrup, and all these different things play a factor into your gut. So that's another thing that I like to focus on is, our gut health is super important. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that,
Yeah.
they think that, it's just, oh, I have to be a vegan or I have to cut
Too
out.
extreme.
Yeah, too
Yeah.
extreme, but it's also about keeping your body alkalized. So it's like, there's a lot of factors that go into your nutrition, but it all starts with learning your body and figuring out what works best for you.
So maybe what would be beneficial for someone to hear is like, walk me through a day of like your meals, kind of like what you do to alkaline your body in the morning.
Okay.
And of course to stay that way, and pre and post workout supplementation. Just walk me through like a day in the nutritional life of your, adventure.
So in the morning, I always like to drink, and of course I don't always have the time to like, juice or make a greens drink. So nowadays I try to just drink water with just lemon in the morning.
That's good.
Or yes, that's good because lemon. It's people think it's lemon is like really acidic, but it's actually very alkalizing for your body.
Yeah.
So I like to drink water with lemon, or I like to drink a greens drink in the morning before I do anything, just so that my body's like.
So first thing you wake up, take lemon water or some sort of alkaline water.
Yeah, or like a greens drink,
greens.
just to alkalize your body to wake up and just feel better because, when you're sleeping for 8 hours, you're dehydrated. You're not
That's right.
drinking or doing anything when you're sleeping. So you want to alkalize your body as soon as you wake up. And then for first thing I do is because I like to train in the morning. So I'll usually make my pre-workout drink. So then I start preparing my breakfast. So I either have like a gluten-free toast or I like to have like eggs. So something with protein, with carbohydrates, because I feel like that is what gets me going.
And this is a pre-workout meal.
It's a pre-workout meal.
And how long before the workout do you generally eat this?
About anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour.
You feel like it settles in your stomach for
yeah,
about
sometimes
that time.
I don't like to eat too much before I work out. But again, some days I'll wake up and I'm like super hungry and I have to have like,
maybe rice
that
and
extra.
something.
Yeah, correct. So I always listen to my body. Like I never limit myself to anything I don't feel like I should have to. Like if I feel like I'm hungry, I'm going to give myself what it wants.
Right.
Because I've learned that even, after competing, when I do limit myself, for some reason, like your brain is like, it wants it more when you limit yourself to something.
Yeah.
So then again, it goes back to like your mental health. When the more like you tell yourself you can't have it, like it really, really fucks with your brain. So
Sure.
like if you just allow yourself to have like what it's craving or just a little bit of it, then I think that is more beneficial than cutting it out completely. And then not being able to go long term with that.
That makes sense. Yeah, because then you completely just, and it's a dialogue we have with ourselves. Because if you in your head just keep telling yourself, no, you can't have that, your mind will be less cooperative too.
Correct.
It's gonna, because it's like we certainly have desires and temptations, and that's a real thing. So you have to balance that out with, okay, I've done really well for like, I guess cheat meals would be a good example here. Like you've done really well for like, 4 or 5 days where you've just been on top of it. And now you're like, you just really want to like, splurge on something, and it's worth it. It almost feels like it's worth it.
Yeah.
But one thing that I want to point out is when I used to do that, especially if I was like really strict on my diet, the moment I would go have a cheat meal, I would feel terrible after that. Like my stomach and gut health would be completely destroyed if I've been eating clean, like, everything clean for weeks and weeks. And then all of a sudden I'll go eat like a California burrito.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, and I can't even feel like process it. So it's like your body doesn't like that after a while too.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
So for me, like nowadays, like that's why I never limit myself to anything. So I don't feel like I have to have a cheat meal. So
because you're bringing it in.
Like so, like if I want chocolate, I'm gonna have chocolate. If I want cereal, like I don't ever give myself rules anymore because I found that when I give myself rules, then I have the cheat meals, and then you feel really shitty about yourself afterwards. So now, when I don't limit myself, I don't ever have to get back into that place where I feel like so shitty after I had like a cheat meal. So that's more like I feel like it's more sustainable, I should say, as a lifestyle versus like, no, you can't do this. It's like telling a kid, don't touch that toy, or he's gonna touch it.
Fair enough.
Same with, I mean, we're adults, same thing.
Big kids.
Yeah.
So true. So you wake up, alkaline your body, have a breakfast, and now you're in the gym.
And then I'm in the gym.
So what do you do any supplementation during the gym session?
Yes. So
tell me about that. I want to know all the details.
I love my sports supplements, as you guys know by now. Right now I do this pre-workout called Loco. I mix it with a scoop of Loco, a scoop of Skywalk, and a scoop of Rubik's. So basically one is a nootropic, so it gets me like super tunnel vision. That one, Skywalk, doesn't have too much caffeine, and actually it's green coffee bean, but they have an ingredient called alpha GPC in it. There's also like tyrosine, and they're basically ingredients to help you focus. I also like taking Skywalk on like my non-workout days because like I feel like if I want to be productive, or it gets me like in the right mindset of
it's kind of like watered down Adderall.
I guess you could say that. I never really taken Adderall before, but
Don't start now. Stay away, Sandy.
So, and then Loco is a pre-workout with like nitric oxides in it, so it's gonna help you get have endurance.
So you just mix this up in like a shaker bottle and take it with you.
Yeah,
in the
I like
gym.
to drink. I like to drink half of it before I go to the gym, and then as soon as I get to the gym, for some reason I like to finish the rest. Then I feel like it's if I split it, I don't feel so like I don't know. I don't get too wired, first of all, and I feel like it's a really good balance for me. Like it keeps me motivated, like to just keep going. I don't know.
And what's supplementation like after the gym? So we're gonna finish the day off. So tell me.
So after the gym, I usually do a protein shake,
Okay.
and then I usually mix it with oats, or I have the protein shake just by itself, and then I'll go have a meal like 30 minutes later, like when I get home.
And what are the meals like for throughout the day?
Honestly love rice, so I have like rice with every single meal, and
How many meals a day? 3 to 4?
I eat like 5 times a day, sometimes 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think because like, I mean, I put in work at the gym. I'm not going to lie. So I'm like constantly burning. And I learned that I do get hungry like 2-3 hours. And maybe it's because I don't overstuff myself too when I eat. Like I'll eat until like I'm full. Like, I feel like also when you feel like you are like you're like on a diet, people like say I can only have like X amount of food, or it tricks your brain into thinking like you can't eat,
Right.
and then you end up, again, it goes back to not achieving your goal. But I eat 5 meals a day. I have rice, I have chicken, or it's fish, and I always have veggies. So that's
You cook all your meals or you using services?
I cook. I use actually all of the above. So I cook. I've used service before. And honestly, right now I just moved back to LA, and my mom is like in town, and
Just
she's
shoving food in your mouth.
She
Oof.
loves cooking for me, so I eat a lot of mom's food. But if I do cook for myself, then it's usually really basic, because
Yeah.
I found that like I just like to keep it as simple as possible. So eggs. I don't really like too much sauce or anything. I try to keep it as simple because I like to save my calories for like my snacks. I like snacks.
Yeah.
I like rice cakes. I love almond butter. Gosh, I love nuts. That's my weakness.
That's good. Yeah, yeah.
It's not good when you can eat the whole bag.
Feel that. Yeah. I try to not keep nuts that have salt, like salted peanuts and
Yeah.
cashews, because it's too easy to destroy that whole bag
Yes.
or box of those. So, but when they're unsalted, I found that I won't eat as many because they don't taste quite as good, right?
Yeah.
So if you get unsalted, you'll eat less of them. At least that's for me. That's worked.
Well, see, that's good. So you know what your weakness is.
Oh.
And I know my weakness is if I have a jar of almond butter or like a bag of almonds at home, then I will overeat it. So I won't allow myself to be in that position by buying individual packets. So know your weakness and make sure you just don't do it.
Right. So it's a level of self-awareness. You
Yeah,
have to know
exactly.
what works for you and doesn't, and then don't put yourself in that position where you're tempted to eat cake or whatever,
Correct.
like don't buy the 5-layer chocolate cake from Costco and put it in your fridge like I do,
Because you know you're
because
gonna
you know
eat
you're going to
it.
eat that damn thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. I
But
like
yeah,
that.
I just keep it as simple as possible because I just
Because it's a lifestyle for you
Yeah,
now.
it
It's no
is.
longer about just competing and getting on stage. It's more
No.
of sustaining this balance of enjoying certain foods, but then also eating things that, are good for you and are going to help you sustain this physique and this lifestyle long term
Yeah.
than what you've been doing. Tell me a little bit about the gym stuff. Like, what are you using to work out nowadays? Is it all weights? Is it, because I know you do some spin too.
I
So
love
tell me
spinning.
what like your balance is like with the exercises.
Lately I've been hiking a lot too. I personally really like spinning because I feel like I don't know, for some reason when I took my first spin class like a couple years ago, and I find that spinning it challenges me because I can adjust a gear, and I'm someone that likes to always push myself. I don't know. I don't need
You're a little warrior.
I don't need somebody to be like, assist me in working out.
So you've never had a trainer or anything? Like a weights trainer?
No, only when I was with Team Zero Gravity, we did like circuit training together, but I never felt like I
Needed
needed
the
or
push.
wanted. No, I've always been self motivated. But I do know people that like to work. Like my sister, for example, she would she would want me to go to the gym with her because
You'll
she's
push her.
yeah, because I'll push her.
Right.
But for me, I thrive on I as soon as like I feel like super fatigued, I'm like, okay, no, Sandy, you got to do 5 more.
Yeah.
Because I'm always thinking like, how can I improve myself? And the only way I'm going to improve is if I continue pushing myself. So that's why I like the spin bike, because I can adjust the gear. So as soon as I feel like it's getting a little too easy for me, I'll up the gear. But that's just what works for me. Like I personally really love it when I get sore and when I burn, because I know that like I'm burning
You're
calories.
making something happen. So spin is something you're doing, and you're still doing weights and everything.
Still
What are
doing
like
weights,
what are
yeah.
the weight splits like for you?
Um, honestly, what works best is I like doing upper body, lower body, upper body, and lower body. So like, I never have like a routine set in my head. I just go with how I feel when I walk into the gym. Like today I'm going to take a rest day because I'm really sore. Like yesterday I did upper body, and when I walked in I had the intentions of doing back, but somehow it turned into like me focusing more on my shoulders. So like I'll start doing a warm up, and I'll just start feeling out like what parts feel like they're not sore. Like if I feel like I'm lacking my shoulders a little bit, I'll just continue training my shoulders more until I feel like really fatigued on that, and then I'll
Yeah.
move on to like triceps. But it's never anything set. Like I just go with what I feel like needs work.
See, that's really interesting for you that it works, because for me it's like a challenge of, there's obviously certain body parts that I don't like to train. Like obviously most people know legs are more taxing on your body than almost any other body.
Yeah.
Back and legs
Yeah,
are very
yeah,
taxing.
back is really gets me.
Yeah, 'cause, like
I
it's
don't
a
like feeling
huge
sore
muscle
in my
group.
back.
It's a
Yeah.
huge muscle group to like train. It involves like all of the upper body sort of core involvement, shoulders involvement, and then there's so many different muscles in your back to train from all these different angles. So like back, I always love training, but and that's the day that's what I look forward to training more than anything else, because I like really enjoy training back.
Yeah.
But then like legs and stuff is like, you're like, oh man, I'm not trying to like stop fitting into jeans again. I don't really, but at the same time, it's because I remember beating myself up for legs. Like quads were okay. Hamstrings were super difficult for me, which I've talked about many times with you. Is like I always appreciated how you had your legs looking when you got ready for a contest, because you had fucking ripped up hamstrings, which is not easy. I don't think very many people are genetically gifted with hamstrings. Like they have to really work their ass off to get those, and
Yeah, a
understand
lot
like how
to
do you
work.
flex that muscle properly without like getting your hips involved too much, your glutes involved too much, and then keeping all that going. So tell me a little bit about, like, I'm sure a lot of girls out there that are trying to like get a bigger butt or like better legs. Like you have phenomenal legs.
Oh, thank you. I feel like they still need improvement, of course.
That's of course to your standard, and you need that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be working out, right? So you need that. But like, walk me through a little bit, and we can segment this out for Instagram and whatnot. Like, what works for you for like leg development and for glutes development, maybe in two separate ways. But
So I always, for me, maybe because I've been working out for a while, it takes me a little bit to warm up. I personally like doing cardio first.
Okay.
I feel like, especially with spinning or stairs or even treadmill, like if I'm doing a treadmill, then I always make sure I walk on an incline so that, and I don't cheat. I don't like cheating. I don't put my hands on the treadmill if I am doing a treadmill.
I'm so glad you brought that up,
because I feel like you're not putting in the work if you're holding on to something, So
that's so true for stairs.
Yeah, stairs also. I don't like to hold on. I feel like you shouldn't hold on. It's also bad for your back. I always like cringe when I see people
slouching,
like,
and I see it all the time. I can get it if you're tired, but at least try to like do it without holding on.
Yeah,
Very
and I
good
feel
point.
like mind muscle connection is really, really important. So like when I'm in my workouts, I love listening to music too when I work out. So I always make sure I have like a great
Pump
playlist.
up list.
Yeah, great playlist, and it varies from different things. But again, mind muscle connection. So like whether you're doing treadmill, you're doing stairs, or the spin bike, you want to make sure you're really engaged with like your legs. You're really squeezing your glutes if you're walking up the hill, because you can always squeeze them.
Yeah.
Um, Same with stairs and same with the bike. So I usually warm up with cardio first. I do about 20, 30 minutes of that. And then I like to do band work. I feel like the band work really helps warm up my hips. And depending on what muscle group I'm going to work on, I will do like, if I focus on glutes today, then I'll do more warm-ups for glutes. Like I'll do the abduction machines.
I see.
Or if you don't have that machine, you can also do it with bands. And if you don't have bands, then you can also warm up with, just by doing like, lunges, split jumps, body weight exercises are just great. Like you can have a really good workout, but again, it's all about mind muscle connection and really squeezing your glutes. And
Is
your
there
muscles.
an exercise that you found to be like the Sandy staple for glute development?
I don't know. I do it all. I don't think so. No. I make sure I squat, I do lunges, I do leg press, heavy. Girls, I think that's the one thing that a lot of girls are afraid of. Heavy. Like, I feel like, I'm not that strong, but to me, like I've been training for so many years, and if you look at my physique, girls cannot possibly get like bulky. So no matter how much weight that we lift, you cannot be like a man unless you're taking steroids.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So again, don't focus on the weight, but more so like just improving every time. And I don't like to count my reps. I feel like that's cheating also. Like if you say like 10 to 15, then in your mind, you're already like psyching yourself out at 15.
Yeah.
So I don't count.
Yeah.
I just go until I can't do anymore. And if I feel like I can do a lot, like 20, for example, then I'm like, okay, that's too easy.
Yeah. Up the weight.
Yeah. You got to up the weight.
Enough. I can agree with that. The only advice I give to like guys is to leave their ego at the door and not try to lift the gym, lift heavy, because it's the complete opposite. Like for me, a lot of guys would ask me, well, how much you bench, bro? How much you squat? I'm like, dude, it's none of these impressive numbers that you think I do, because what I used to always do was, for me, what worked, and this was again self-awareness into figuring out what works for you. Like for me, I couldn't load up the bar with 4 plates and squat that, because my joints wouldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And it would just, I've had too many issues with like knees and lower back whenever I try to do heavy squats.
And
so then what
I
would
want to injure yourself?
Because then you can't train. So what's the point? So I would always do what worked for me was and I follow a lot of Kai Green's workouts and a lot of high volume training, which for me was not a lot about the weight, but about reps and sets. Like I would do 5 sets and 6 sets, and I would do the 20, 30, 40 reps. At one point I would do 100 rep sets.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I would do one, I remember vividly, I would have workouts where it would be for 4 to 6 weeks, it would be 100 reps only. So if I were to go in and do a body part, especially if it's a stubborn body part, for legs, it was difficult, but do 100 squats, on the hack squat machine, do 100 leg press, do 100 leg extensions, do 100 leg curls, do 100 lunges walking. And then after your workout, you've done 800 repetitions. So it's you didn't do a lot of weight, but you just destroyed your body. So my tactic was, okay, you're not the strength guy, but you can find the same results if you find how to deplete the body, basically. So, for me, it was always high volume
and endurance
and just keep pushing at that. And then it also works in as cardio, because then you are so depleted at the end of it, the last thing you want to do is go and do a cardio exercise. But because you've been going so hardcore and your volume is up, you're sweating profusely, your heart rate is climbing the whole time because you're not stopping. 100 reps continuously. The only time you stop is to my thing was even if I'm on a leg press, it's not that I'm going to rack the leg press. I will hold it as long as I need to hold it.
Good.
And then keep going and then keep going and then keep going. And then you'll find that's what keeps your heart rate completely pumping the whole time. It's just high volume. And that worked for me. But for women, I would say I agree with you that a little bit heavier. But again, it's all mind to muscle. If you're going through the movements and you're not feeling it in your body, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You can do this, but unless you can actually feel the tension the whole way through, and you're like, oh fuck, that really hurts.
Yeah.
That's what really makes the difference.
Yes, and also, it's okay to not know. If you don't know how to do something, just Google it. I think a lot of times people forget that
lazy.
Google is,
Your best
is our
friend.
best friend.
Yeah.
And if you have any doubt or if something doesn't feel right, just look it up. And I
Yeah.
think like a lot of times nowadays people are lazy because we do have social media and people like just think that I don't know. It's just yeah.
Well, it's just we overcomplicate it, right? Like
Yeah.
we talked about it. It's super simple. Getting in shape and being healthy is actually simple steps. It's just because it's so simple, our mind doesn't like that simplicity. So it's always going to come up with ways to make it more difficult than it is. And that's what it is. It's like, dude, you know exactly how to figure stuff out, but you just won't do it because
Exactly.
you'll make it into this huge, like, oh, well, I don't know. And how am I ever going to find out how to like get myself in shape? I just can't do it. But you can do it because, I see you doing it. And
Excuses.
Yes. That's all it is. That's all it
Yeah.
is. I love that, and that you have figured that out for yourself. And I like that you're balancing yourself out now, because I think that's one of the conversations that we've had just through Instagram. When I started seeing that you weren't posting as much, I think I reached out to you and I was kind of in the same boat in my life where I was like, well, I'm no longer a competitive athlete,
Yeah.
but I don't want to be unhealthy anymore. And that's what I started to do is like I binged on everything else that I wasn't, disciplined about. And went the complete opposite direction from a very disciplined person to a completely like recluse, not caring at all. And then now it's like, well, you can't do that either. So you need to find a happy medium where it's a change that you can sustain for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years.
Correct.
As long as I'm here, I want to be able to sustain this lifestyle. I don't want to be burned out, because that's what happens. I felt when I was competing is that you get burned out. You get this like, okay, well, what's next? Like,
Because there's so many rules too.
Yeah.
And you had like this image of like
who you want to look like and what you
Yeah.
want to be. Yeah. And that just doesn't help you.
No.
If it's all about competing, you're not appreciating anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, meditation has actually helped me quite a bit to level out whenever I get caught up in I have to look like this and that. And it's like, well, you don't, but what you want is that inner peace,
Yeah. I agree.
that's that calmness, that feeling that you said you get after a workout where you're just like, I can do anything else. What else does this day have to bring? Like, come
Yeah.
on, I got this.
I think that we need a lot more of that. I think that nowadays, because social media has become like so big, I think that we're losing the fact that we do need to meditate.
Yes.
We do need to have self-love. We do need to be at one with ourselves.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So your meditation right now is the gym though.
Yes.
And that's good.
100%.
That's good. I've been getting back into my meditation, recently, because I was, so I did this, I learned a few things from YouTube first, like, because when I was like really getting depressed, I didn't know what to do with myself. I could definitely not motivate myself to work out. I'm telling you, Sandy, like going from looking like that freak of a monster, I was, I didn't even want to I went to the local gym in my apartment complex with like just like a couple of cycles and like a dumbbell rack. And I wouldn't even be able to like feel anything
Really?
with 10-pound dumbbells, 5-pound dumbbells. Like it just was a complete foreign thing to me. Like I was just so far gone from where I thought I was that it just all felt foreign to me. So I was like, well, this clearly isn't working. So I can't do this. And everything hurt, because the one thing that I think is unspoken, and maybe this is some other people have experienced this, is when you get big, like for a bodybuilding competition, and when you're a guy and you put on all this muscle, what you're doing is you're looking at your body and seeing the positives and the negatives, and you have to bring up the negatives. So like if for me it was like the chest wasn't there, I would have to work extra hard on that. If the hamstrings weren't there, I have to work extra hard on that.
Correct.
So you're working towards all the deficient body parts. Well, that's great if you're consistently doing that. You've balanced out your physique and then you know about it. But the moment you stop working out, when your body starts to shrink, it doesn't proportionally shrink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the body parts that you did have struggle with tend to shrink more. And then that causes these imbalances of like pushes and pulls. And that's what I had, because I had stopped working out now consistently for a couple of years. So my body was so imbalanced. Like the shoulders were messed up, like my chest was like too much of the posture this way versus being able to sit back like this. So I started to notice like, okay, I need to do something else, and then this is where like yoga and meditation kind of came into my life, thanks to my mom and some other smart people that saw my situation at the time. And I did I was super hesitant. I'm like, yoga, like what? Come on now, you have that ego of a
Yeah.
bodybuilder. Like, it's yoga. What a waste of how many calories does that burn? You know what I mean? But I was completely oblivious. I didn't know anything about it. Yoga is not about the movements. It's about having this connection with your mind and your body. And
I need to do more of that for sure. 100%.
yeah, I would agree. I would recommend it for you and for myself even more, and everybody else. Is like that really helps you see the inner environment, that chatter that we were talking about that's in your head at all times. Even in the gym when you're lifting, you have a chatter in your head.
Yeah, it's always
goes away.
there.
It always goes there, but we don't talk about it, and we don't even like observe it ourselves as much as we could. So it's almost like you're setting the intention to sit and, you know what, I'm just going to let everything flow the way it does and see what part of it is real and it's not. So for me, meditation is sometimes really as simple as just intentionally taking like 10 breaths and just sitting there and just like, okay, this is all I'm going to do. So I'm just going to breathe and I'm going to feel the gaps between the inhale and the
That's
exhale.
awesome, yeah.
And that's it. But then after that, I went to this thing called inner engineering. It was a course, like a 4-day course. The guy I follow, his name is Sadhguru. I can show you him. You might have seen him. So this guy, he's like a yogi, Indian yogi, and he has this program called inner engineering where they teach you this like kriya. Kriya means practice. It's a meditation practice. And what it was is like you go in and they teach you how to cleanse yourself by like improving your eating habits and being more observant of like your inner environment and how you behave and how we all react, how we're impulsive about stuff like eating. Like think about when most people open up a bag of chips. You start eating and then you realize the whole thing is gone. So it's like you weren't even consciously eating. You were just like this dopamine loop of, the positive feedback loop starts and you're like, oh, this is good. And then you're watching stuff and you're unconsciously eating. And so many of our eating habits are unconscious.
That's true.
Right? So it's like being more aware of those kinds of things because that's where it all starts. It's like, what are you putting into this body? Because that's how you're going to feel. Like we become our food. Like from
100%.
Babies to now, the only difference is you've eaten food to get to the size. Like if you stop eating, you're done, right? Like
that's true.
So you become the food that you eat.
Absolutely, 100%.
And so he starts with that, and then he talks about like, okay, your breath, like your mind and your body are connected by your breath. That's it. Like if you stop breathing, you're done, right? Like so, if you can master your breath, like the same way we talked about eating, we're always breathing unconsciously, and we're breathing in a non-intentional way. Like, yeah, your body will breathe, but if you actually take a breath intentionally, it's a whole different feeling. Like you can feel energy, right? Like versus when you're just passively breathing. So having sit down and having intentional breathing is just like, going to the gym and intentionally lifting the weights and feeling that mind to muscle.
Yeah.
It's the same concept, but it works better for your mental health than anything else. And it's not some massive physical activity that you have to go and set out to do. You can do it in a matter of right where you are.
Yeah, you're so right. Because one thing that I do when I do work out is make sure I breathe properly, but I never do it outside.
of the gym. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy.
But this is like how we all are. We don't think about it because it's like, well, breathing. Yeah, well, everybody breathes. What do you mean? Yeah, but do you intentionally
Really
breathe? Do you actually like breathe from your lower part of your stomach and fill that up and then let it out and see what that energy feels like, that power, that clarity. It brings clarity in you. And then, so I do this Kriya where it's like about 20 minutes. You start with like fluctuating your breathing. So breathing in from one nostril, closing the other one. You can hear I'm a little blocked, but you do that for a few minutes. And then you like, there's certain sounds that your body resonates with. We're all different. There's different frequencies, right? So like when people go Om, right? That's a different like frequency. So you chant like Om. When you do that, different parts of your body vibrate. Like when you say you feel that in your stomach. When you say oh, you feel that in your chest. When you feel that in your throat. So if you sit there, intentionally do that, you're going to start to see that energy is flowing from the bottom all the way up. And just observe
That's
that.
crazy.
Just
I didn't
observe
know
that over and over and over and over again. And then the third thing I do is like this fluttering of your breath where you're breathing in and out really fast. Wim Hof, have you heard of him before? Wim Hof has this breathing technique where it's basically you're hyperventilating. You just take in as much air as you can and then you stop. Basically because you've over-oxygenated your cells that they hold on to that. And then you can hold your breath for about a minute, 2 minutes. It's insane. Like the first time you do it,
Wow.
you can hold your breath and you'll just be like, holy shit, I didn't even know I could do that. Right? We could try it if you want.
The human body is so crazy.
It's amazing. And so all the yogic Vedic texts, like Indian culture is what brings about yoga, right? And that's my culture, and I never really studied it as much. So I'm kind of reversing back to learning about more of that, because you'll find that all these things that we do externally to bring us fulfillment and satisfaction are not it. It's like you have to do the inner work, and you have to understand the inner environment and fix that. And
That's so true.
And the meditation is one of the big key. And you don't even have to call it meditation. Call it breathing exercises if that makes you feel better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People have a stigma associated with the
I
word
agree.
meditation, but
I agree.
it's no different than like doing a warm up exercise for your body parts.
Perspective.
But it's for your mind, and it's for your entire existence. Like being able to see that mental chatter. Like, so when I'm sitting there and I'm trying to do these breathing exercises, it's not like my mind just like says, all right, dude, I'll come back to you later.
Yeah.
It's in there. It's
Yeah,
always in there. It's like, it's like saying random things like, oh, you're such a piece of shit. You can't get your life together. You're this and that. And all I'm doing is like, that's cool. I'm just going to keep focusing on my breathing. And you start to see that there's this distance between the chatter and then
Correct.
between you. And then you start to, this is where like my dilemma starts, is like, then you go into the questioning of, well, who am I? And what part do I play in that chatter? Because that voice is not entirely true. So why is it there? And then my analogy to it is like, this is your tool. Like your mind is a really smart computer that's there for you. And we can utilize that. But most of the times we're living in that chatter.
Yeah,
We're just going by
that's
what
true.
it says. We just do impulsively what it says. And what we need to do doesn't really get done. Like whatever you set out to do intentionally, you get distracted by your own mind.
Yeah,
You know?
we do.
Because how many times we tell ourselves we're going to do this and that, and then we don't do it.
Correct.
So it's like we're our own employee and an even terrible manager, right? Like that's what's happening. So it's this self-awareness piece that I feel like sort of ties in. And I had glimpses of this when I was doing bodybuilding, because as you know, you have to basically silence that, like that voice. And even though it tells you, I'm so tired, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
got to push yourself.
That's true.
But then outside of the gym, how do you do that without having to go to the gym? This is where I would say like a practice like meditation, it's conditioning yourself to handle that sort of inner chatter, that inner like crazy sort of voice that can bring about so many things, you know, like the judgments of comparison and all of the tools, because your mind is as strong as and as smart as you are. Like all the tricks that you have, your mind can use against you.
yeah.
You know, it's your mind. You have given it all that stimulus. So there's a practice that needs to be put in place. And for me, and I think you should do it too. And we'll do a quick meditation before we get off this today. But it's something that I've found to be very helpful. And I'm not saying meditation cures everything for you, but it's a start. It's just like when you started and I started in my fitness journey and your fitness journey. It's like we have to start somewhere. You can't expect like one meditation session is going to
gonna
make you
work.
like
Yeah.
the most amazing human being in the world. No, but it's just like that first workout and that first meal isn't going to make you into the Sandy that you are now.
Yeah, no.
But you took that time to do it. It's just I feel more and more of us need to take the time to make meditation or make mental health exercising
I agree. 100%.
be like
yeah.
a real part of our routine and our ritual. So one practice that I do, it's a guided meditation in a way. And if you want to participate, and let's do it real quick
Yes,
if you want
let's do
to.
it.
So this is the one that really opened up my eyes and made me see that I'm beyond the thoughts in my head. But again, it's not so easy to always be in this place. It's just a constant reminder that we have to give ourselves throughout the day. And even when I was telling you I was freaking out yesterday, it was this, I had lost in touch with who I am, and I was getting consumed by a thought about nothing else matters and that there's no purpose to my life. And that was what my mind was starting to use to keep me in its grip. And so the way it works is, imagine we're going to come into this room. Actually, forget about imagining. You're already in this room. But do me a favor and leave your mind outside. What I mean by that is leave everything that has anything to do with Sandy and her family and her past and everything that's happened outside for just a moment. We'll go back to it. But for now, let's just put that outside. And come in here and be with me without any projections of what we're going to do after this and what's been done before, what's next. Just simply let that be outside. Can you do that?
Yes.
So now when you're sitting here in front of me and we're talking, your mind might want to come back in, but remember you told it to be outside.
Mm-hmm.
But being completely present with me right now with no anticipation of what to do next and no problems about what's happened in the past because you don't have to deal with them right now because the mind is outside.
Correct.
How do you feel now?
Peaceful.
Automatically, right?
Yeah. Like peaceful.
It's like this is our natural state and that's it. How simple of a meditation is that? Every time you can now see when your mind comes in with the next thought, you can see it because you've suspended it for a moment.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's all it is.
We can just turn it off.
Yeah, but we're never taught this. We're never taught that there's a suspension of this dialogue that can happen. And once you realize this, you can also realize that you can reintroduce a dialogue that you want. Because when a thought comes about, oh my God, you got to do this thing, you're like, do I?
Yeah.
Or is that just a thought that just came and I just saw it walk by and I chose not to play with it?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like
That's a
grounding
really good
yourself
way
in this.
of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah, just saying, I know I have to deal with stuff. I'm not saying walk away from your responsibilities. And this was part of my big like turmoil was in the spiritual terms, they call this your ego. You've heard the word alter ego. So think about what is your alter ego? That means it's an alternative ego. That means there's an ego in you already, right? And that ego in you and in me is I'm Abhinav and you're Sandy and everything associated with that. All the things that have happened in your past, your parents, your nieces, your past relationships, your fitness journey, all of that is something in the past. It doesn't exist right now. It's just a memory. But the fact that we keep reliving it and going back to it and being drowned in it is what keeps us like attached to it.
That's true.
Right? And it's necessary to some degree because otherwise, then who are you and who am I? We're nobody if we don't have that identity. So it's like this duality play happening. Because if we woke up tomorrow, you and I, and didn't have our memories, what a different world it would be for us. We wouldn't even have the problems that we think we have today.
That's very true.
Right? Because the only reason those problems exist is because we have our memories keep bringing us back into the, hey, you have this responsibility. Remember, you have a sick parent or you have, folks to look after. And maybe if you have children and if you're married, you have this and that to look after. But if you all of a sudden can be distant from that, you see that there's nothing that you actually have to do or need to even do. It's just there and you get to do it. So you can shift your perspective on everything. But a lot of it comes from like putting yourself in this zone and stepping away and seeing it for like the play. Like you mentioned this, like when you moved away from Florida, you started to see things differently because you saw it from an outside perspective.
Correct.
Meditation is just there to show you your own self from a bigger perspective. It's like imagine you're seeing from a different vantage point into your own story. So you can see it more objectively rather than in the personal way. In that like, oh my God, I'm so attached to like, what if this doesn't happen and that doesn't happen and this doesn't happen? Like, those are all projections about the future.
Yeah.
Those are all ideas, but we get so attached to them and so gripped to them that, oh my God, if this doesn't happen, I'm going to be over. Everything will be over. But that's not true either.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just our mind is so strong.
Self-induced.
Yeah, it is. But, and it's a really strong thing and it's scary because the moment you realize that that's what's happening inside of you, I tend to fall into like the dark parts of this where I'm just like, my mind used this against me. It will bring up things like, well, then there's no point to doing anything. Why do anything?
Yeah, I can see that too.
But that's also not good. So again, there's a balance to everything. There's no one solution for it all because we're here in this like world and we get to play in this world. And I think it starts with, and this is what brings you and me together, is that we were both at an earlier point in our time started to think, well, maybe fitness is really going to give us what we're looking for. And it did to some degree until it started to tear itself apart too, because we realized, hey, look, even this isn't fulfilling me entirely.
Yeah.
Even me being in the best fucking shape possible is not making me feel like I'm complete. So then it's not going to be something external, because I thought about it that way. I thought like, well, I'm in the best shape possible. I look better than most people around me. I have great mental health. I'm strong. I can basically do whatever I want. But for some reason, there's still this void. It was like this ego will never be fulfilled. I could buy all the nice watches. I could buy a nice car, buy a house, marry the hottest girl in the world. That's not going to fulfill you. You think it will. It's an idea again, right? But we need those ideas because psychologically, at least from what I understand, is we have to, in the present moment, like think of something that's better. Otherwise, we won't take action.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you were waking up in the morning and you just didn't do anything, well, great, you didn't do anything. But you think about, hey, if I go to the gym, I'm going to have a killer workout. And you know what? After that, I'm going to have an amazing day. So you go and you do that. So you decided to push yourself out of bed and do that. Now I'm saying all this stuff and I sound like I'm some like genius guru, but you know me better than anyone else.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not always the case either. Like even I have a difficult time
Me
telling
too.
myself this, you know, and I have a very tough time staying consistent with this, which is why I'm treating this like a practice. Like just like it was difficult to lift the weights, it's difficult to keep reminding yourself of this, but you got to do it. It's like reps and sets, baby.
Yeah.
Just got to do it. And I hope you maybe start some meditation. I would love to help you in any way I can.
Yeah, I
you know?
definitely need to do more meditation for sure.
Hell
That's
yeah.
like without question.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sandy, this has been fun.
Yeah.
You had a good time?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to bring up before we sign off?
No, I'm just, curious what's going to happen after this. And you never know, but I'm glad I came today because it really helped me open up my mind and I learned a lot more about myself. And so thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. I really appreciate you saying that. You know, I really hope to create a space with Blossom and with just myself and my life is like I feel like I've suffered with my own thoughts more than anyone else because that's how it feels because it's a personal perspective. But I also know that I can be the most liberated person if I can step away from those thoughts and or see them like we just did and change them. And I feel so compelled to help other people see this too. And I thought the physical part would be doing that because I thought I'd be the world's best trainer and I'll be like such a good physical trainer and all that. But that doesn't help you unless the mental health is there too.
Correct. I agree.
They both play together. Well, I think we should probably end it on this note because this has been really good.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for
so
coming
much.
down here.
Of course.
And I
Thank
want you
for
to come
having
back.
me. Yes, we're going to come back to
fucking
this,
do this
for
again.
sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go get out of here. We're going to take a walk at the beach.
Yes.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.